I wasn't supposed to hear it. If she had hung up when she thought she did, or if I'd ended the call half a second sooner, or if I hadn't still been standing there with my phone in my hand like an idiot, none of this would have happened, but she didn't. And I did, and what I heard changed everything. Her name was Nora, and she had been my best friend for almost 6 years. Long enough to know exactly how she took her coffee, exactly what tone she used when she was pretending not to be upset, and exactly how many rings it took before she picked up when I called her late. Usually 2. That night, 1. "Did you get home?" she asked the second she answered. I smiled before I could stop myself. "Hello to you too. Did you?" "Yes, Mom." "Don't start." That was Nora, quick, warm, slightly dangerous when she was in a good mood. We met in college because she stole my seat in a campus cafe and refused to apologize for it. I had gone up to get a refill, came back, and found her sitting in my chair using my charger, drinking a coffee. She admitted 10 minutes later was also mine. "You're unbelievably calm about this," she said. "I'm deciding if you're charming enough to survive it." She grinned and said, "I usually am." She was right. After that, we became the kind of friends people always misread. Late-night food runs, movie marathons that turned into arguments, phone calls on bad days, phone calls on good days, phone calls when nothing was wrong and one of us just didn't feel like being alone. People assumed there was something more. We always said there wasn't, or more accurately, I said there wasn't. Nora usually just smiled in that unreadable way of hers and let people think whatever they wanted. That should have told me something. So, should the way she always got quiet when I mentioned dating someone, or the way every relationship I tried felt temporary in a way Nora never did, but some people become such a built-in part of your life that you stop asking what they mean because the answer feels too big. So, I didn't ask. I just called her when I got home after a terrible date with a girl named Elise who had spent most of dinner checking her reflection in the back of a spoon. "That bad?" Nora asked when I finished describing the evening. She asked me if I thought emotional availability was genetic. "That is a real sentence someone said to you?" She was serious, Nora laughed. Soft and bright and familiar enough to make the whole day feel less exhausting. "Please tell me you at least got decent pasta out of it." "I paid $28 to be psychologically evaluated over linguine." "That's on you." "I was trying to be open-minded." "You were trying to be stupid politely." Also true. I could hear her moving around her apartment while we talked. Cabinet doors, running water, the low hum of her kettle. It was such a normal call. That was the strange part. So normal that I almost missed the way she kept going quiet whenever I mentioned Elise again. "You know," I said, stepping out of my shoes by the door, "I think I'm officially done with dating apps." "That's probably healthy. Or dramatic. With you, it can be both." I laughed and leaned against the kitchen counter. What would I do without you?" The line went quiet. Not dead quiet. Just that slight pause that means a question landed somewhere deeper than it was supposed to. "Nora?" "I'm here." Her voice had changed a little, softer. Then she cleared her throat and said, almost too lightly, "Probably date women who don't interrogate you over pasta." That is a very high bar. You'd be amazed how low the current standard seems. I smiled. "Good night, Nora." "Good night." I pulled the phone away from my ear and was just about to end the call when I heard it. Not silence. Her voice. Fainter now, a little away from the phone like she'd set it down on the counter without realizing the line was still open. At first, I only caught pieces. Just got home." Then another voice, female, tinny through speakerphone. Her friend Chloe, I thought. And then Nora again. Clearer this time. "No, I know," she said, sounding tired in a way she never sounded with me. "That's exactly the problem." I froze. Chloe said something too muffled to make out. Then Nora let out a breath that sounded suspiciously like frustration. "I don't know what else to do," she said. "He calls me after every bad date like I'm supposed to help him find the right girl. And I just sit there pretending that's normal." Something in my chest tightened. I should have hung up. I know that. I didn't. Because by then, I already knew, somehow, that whatever came next was going to split my life into before and after. Chloe said something again, sharper this time. And then Nora, in a voice so honest it barely sounded like the same girl who joked her way through everything, said, I'm in love with him, Chloe. I have been for a long time, and I don't know how much longer I can keep acting like being his best friend is enough. I said her name before I even realized I was going to. Nora? Silence. Not the comfortable kind we were good at. This one felt sharp, exposed, like the whole call had suddenly turned into something fragile enough to break if either of us breathed wrong. Then I heard movement on her end. Fast, panicked movement. When she spoke again, her voice was small in a way I had never heard before. You were still there. It wasn't a question. I closed my eyes for a second. Yeah. The silence that followed was worse. Not because it was angry, because it wasn't. It was mortified. Nora, who could argue with professors, charm waiters into fixing orders that weren't even wrong, and walk into any room like she belonged there, us had gone completely quiet. I can explain, she said finally, and even she seemed to know how useless that sounded the second it left her mouth. You don't have to explain it. That's easy for you to say. No, I said softly. It's really not. Another silence. Then, more quietly. I didn't mean for you to hear that. I know. And now everything's weird. That made something in me snap into place, because no part of me wanted this to become one more almost conversation we smoothed over and buried. Nora. What? Don't decide that for me. She didn't answer right away, then she asked very carefully, what does that mean? I looked around my kitchen like the answer might be written somewhere between the sink and the stupid takeout menu on the counter. It wasn't. It was already inside me. And maybe it had been for longer than I wanted to admit. It means, I said slowly, I think I've spent a long time not asking myself the right question. I heard her breathe in. What question? Why every girl I go out with feels wrong the second I start telling you about her. That got me another silence, but a different one this time. Not broken, listening. I kept going before I could talk myself out of it. You want the truth? I think I called you after bad dates because you were the person I actually wanted. I just never let myself finish that thought. I laughed once under my breath, which is a pretty embarrassing way to live in hindsight. When Nora finally spoke, her voice had changed again. Still nervous, but softer now, less afraid. Are you saying this because you feel bad? No. Because if you are, I need you not to. I'm not. I leaned against the counter, suddenly too restless to stand still. I'm saying it because the worst part of hearing what you said wasn't that it shocked me. I swallowed. It was that it made too much sense. I could almost feel her processing that through the line. Then she asked, what do we do now? I didn't hesitate this time. I'm coming over. What? I'm not having this conversation through a phone you accidentally didn't hang up. Nate? I'm already putting my shoes back on. That got the smallest breath of laughter out of her, shaky and disbelieving. You are impossible. You've known that for 6 years. And yet, she murmured. That one nearly got me. She lived 4 blocks away. I made it in under 5 minutes. When she opened the door, she was in an oversized cream sweater and soft gray shorts, hair loose, face still pink from the kind of embarrassment she clearly wasn't used to wearing. For a second, neither of us spoke. We just stood there looking at each other like the whole friendship had shifted slightly under our feet and neither of us trusted the floor yet. Then Nora said, "This is deeply humiliating for me." I smiled despite everything. You still look better than I do. That's not comforting. It wasn't supposed to be. It was honest. That softened to something in her face. She stepped aside and let me in. Her apartment looked the way it always did at night. Lamp on near the couch, one mug in the sink, blanket half falling off the armrest, but nothing about it felt normal anymore. Not with her standing there. I'm waiting for me to say the one thing I should have said long before tonight. So I did. I'm sorry you had to accidentally confess before I figured myself out. Nora folded her arms. That is somehow not the worst apology I've ever received. I'm serious. I know. Her voice softened. That's why it's making this harder. I took a step closer. The truth is, I think some part of me has known for a while. I just kept hiding behind the fact that you were already in my life. Because if I looked at this directly, it stopped being safe. Her eyes stayed on mine. And now I think I'm done pretending the center of my life is somewhere else. The look on her face after that nearly undid me. Not dramatic, just open, hopeful in a way that seemed to scare her a little. "Nate," she said quietly, "I meant what I said. I know. I really have been in love with you for a long time." I smiled a little. "Yeah, I think I'm the one who was late." That finally made her laugh, soft and warm and relieved. And once she laughed, everything got easier, not smaller, just clearer. I stepped closer again until there was barely any space left between us. "You want to know the really pathetic part?" I asked. She lifted an eyebrow. "Always. I think every time I called you after a bad date, I was basically checking in with the person I wished I'd gone out with instead." Nora stared at me for half a second. Then she covered her mouth and laughed once, almost like she couldn't believe she was allowed to be happy yet. "That," she whispered, "is an unfairly good answer." I panicked and got honest. "It's working." I lifted a hand to her cheek, slow enough to give her time. She didn't move away. So I kissed her. Soft at first. Careful. The kind of kiss that feels less like a sudden decision and more like finally admitting something both people have been circling for far too long. When we pulled apart, she stayed close, her forehead almost touching mine, smiling in that quiet, stunned way people do when hope turns into something real. "Well," she whispered, "that definitely changed everything." I laughed softly. "You're the one who forgot to hang up." Best mistake I've made all year. A week later, I still called Nora at night. The only difference was that now she answered with, "Hey, you," instead of, "Did you get home?" And I stopped pretending the best part of my day was just a habit. It wasn't. It was her. It had probably been her for longer than I knew how to admit. And so tell me, if you were in my place, what would you have done after hearing that confession? Leave it in the comments. And if you like this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.